Hi, everybody, and welcome to your first event. This is the Bryn Newcomers Academy, and today we're going to be talking about your first event, how you can get involved in it, what are some of the things you can do, what do you need to do to get ready for it, what is it going to look like. We'll have a sample packing list, and we'll have a little bit of discussion on how to get involved once you get there. So, let's talk about finding an event. So the first thing you're going to need to do is go to the Kingdom website, so ansteorra.org, or if you want to go straight to the events page, you'll go to ansteorra.org/events. When you're looking for the events page, if you look at the Kingdom website, right at the top on this banner, you have this lovely button that says Events, and you're going to click on it. Next, you're going to be finding the event for more detailed information. You'll click More and drop it down. So here's a picture of our events page here. You can see various events listed out by month and date as to when they're going to be. It'll talk a little bit about where they are. And this is just a little quick view of each event. As we move forward, we're going to just select Queen's Champion for this example. And we'll see it's on November the 9th. And when we get into it, we're going to see this big page of event details. Now on this page at the top, we're going to be seeing the date on the far left side. Underneath the title, Queen's Champion, we'll see the address. We're going to see if there is or is not royal progress and what that progress is. We're going to see what circles are at the event, so what peerages are meeting. We'll see the list of activities going on at the event. We'll see the hosting group, and we'll see if it's a kingdom event or not, if it's a permanent event date or otherwise. And then below that will be all the details of the event. It'll talk about feasts. It'll talk about a lot of different things. There will be a link, usually somewhere near the top of those details, to your event website and any pre-registrations, PayPals, Facebook groups for the event, etc.
What's royal progress?
Royal progress is simply telling you if royals, the king and queen, the prince and princess, will be at the event, their presence is there, and they are holding court. So, some important event info. We have the date, as we talked about in the upper left, the location, the progress, circles, activities, and hosting group. Other things to look for are, does this event have PayPal pre-registration? That way we can pay for it online before we ever go. And that's actually very useful because that way the event steward has an idea of how many people are going to be there. So, pre-register if you can. Next up, we'll have whether or not there's an event website and what the link to that is, as well as a Facebook group, and hopefully some information about the feast. Where can I find more info? So, there are a few spots. We've got our Black Star ads, which we can find in the Kingdom newsletter, also easily located on the Kingdom website. In the upper right-hand corner, there will be a radio button saying newsletter. We click on that, we select Ansteorra, and bam, we have the Black Star. In that, you can find ads for all the events in the upcoming month. And right here, we'll actually see Bryn Gwlad's War of the Bucket ad. It should have all of the information you need for the event. It'll tell you how much it's going to cost. It'll tell you if there's a feast, is that feast extra, everything you may need to know. You can find info on the event website. So many events will have their own website, and we're going to go to that right now. So we'll come here. We're going to go over to the Kingdom calendar. And then once we're on the calendar, we're going to go find an event. Let's look at Bryn Gwlad's Fall Baronial. And we're going to click this little More drop down, and here we can see information on the event. And up here at the top, we're going to find a hyperlink to the event website. So if we click that, this will take us, in this case, to the Bryn Gwlad home webpage. And this will have any other additional information about the event. It'll talk about when gate opens, how to make checks out for the event, PayPal pre-registration links, about camping. All of the information we need is going to be found on an event website like that. So, we come back over here. Hi, Joe. And then finally, group Facebook pages. So sometimes when we're looking for an event and we want like more specific information, or maybe we have questions about the event, the best place to do that is going to be on a group Facebook page or maybe a group Discord. Usually those groups will have an event page set up, and hopefully that will be on the events page on the Kingdom calendar. That way you can go there, go, oh, there's a Facebook group for this. Click on that and you can ask any questions for what you may need answered for the event. How do I get ready? So there's a few steps, and this can just make your life a little bit easier. So first, plan out your travel. How are you getting there? Where are you going? Make sure you know how far the event away is, what car you're taking, if you have enough space to pack everything you need. Carpool. Carpooling is your friend, especially when the event's in Oklahoma. You don't want to drive there by yourself. That's a really long drive, as I just had to do with Nadia and Day and Sorsha, and it took hours. And that's because it's from that day. Does the event have registration? And are you going to pre-register? So if you know you're going to the event already, go online, hit the PayPal pre-registration link, get it out of the way in advance. You now don't have to do anything when you get to event. Gating in is much easier, and you basically just sign your name and walk in. And you don't have to have cash. Are you eating feast? Look at the feast before you go to the event. Is this food you would like to eat? Is this food you can eat? Are there a lot of allergens that you're worried about? If not, maybe you eat feast. It's a lot easier than going off of site sometimes. Some of our event sites don't actually have a lot of places to eat nearby, so it's not a bad idea to just eat feast there. What should I bring with me to the event? So when we're thinking through this list of all of the things we need, and we're like, oh, okay, I've got all of it, and we're going to go through a packing list here in a moment. Think of all of the things that you might need that you probably forgot that weren't on your packing list. For me, it's almost always a speaker, because inevitably someone's like, Twill, can we dance at the event? And every time I leave the speaker behind is exactly the time when I get asked that question. So it just lives with me in the car now. What clothes am I going to wear? If you already have garb, this is easy. Pick out your eventing clothes, maybe the night before you leave, make sure they're already packed. If you don't have garb, find out if there's gold key at the event, or maybe you need to borrow gold key from your local chatelaine. Get in touch. Gold key is the collection of garb that a barony holds onto to loan out to newcomers for the sake of events and what else. Contact your local chatelaine, say, hey, I'm going to an event this weekend and I really need some gold key. If you can give them a little more than a week's notice, that helps, but hopefully they can still get with you one way or the other, and you can have something to wear to the event. Otherwise, many local groups will have their own gold key collection, and somewhere at the event you'll find their chatelaine and go, hey, I need garb to wear at the event. Do y'all have anything I can borrow for the day? Next up, who am I going with? So if you're carpooling, that's one thing. You know, the 3 people in this car, we're all going together. But are you going as part of a larger group? Maybe you're going with the barony or a household or just a group of friends. You're all traveling separately, but maybe you're going to hang out at the event together. Have an idea of who those people are, who you're meeting up with and when, and maybe if you're going to have a shade structure, a little pavilion, what that looks like so people know where they're going and how to meet up and communicate with each other. What do I want to do while I'm at the event? This should be pretty easy for most people. Maybe you came into the SCA and you're interested in fighting. Well, what am I going to do? Maybe you're already fighting. Or if you haven't gotten to a point where you can fight at an event yet, you'll be watching it. But for other people, we need a little bit of help. I know at my first event, I was certainly not ready to fight yet. And so I ended up helping with the feast. Finally, we're going to say, have a small project to keep yourself busy. It is nice to have a little thing to do during the day at the event just to keep your hands busy when you get bored. It can be a little lucid cord braid. It can be spinning. It can be sketching in a notebook. Whatever is your thing. And finally, don't overdo it. There are so many things to do at an event. Do not try to fill your day in advance with, I'm going to go to archery and then rapier, and then I'm going to go watch the heavy fighting, and I'm going to go do some heralding, and then I'm going to go help in the kitchen, and then we're going to go to lunch, and that's the first half of my day. I know I am a big committer of this crime of overbooking my events with way more things than I need to do at them. But that's what I'm going to tell you is don't overdo it. Keep it simple for your first few events. Try to have fun. Try to space things out. Give yourself time to breathe and get to know the people around you. A sample packing list. So, what are some things we should bring? First, garb and a change of mundane clothes. Big deal. Garb is great because we're going to an SCA event, we need garb, but that change of mundane clothes can be equally important. Maybe it's a really hot day and it's really sweaty and you were in your mundanes to get all your pavilions and your tent and everything set up, and those are gross, and then you wore your garb all day and you don't want to wear your garb out to dinner afterwards or whatever. And then you're like, oh, what do I wear? If you bring that change of mundane clothes, you're good to go. Bring a mug, a cup, some sort of vessel for drinking out of. We want to stay hydrated at events. It's hot in Texas. It can be very humid at some of our events. Staying hydrated is important, so make sure you have something to drink out of while you're there. Water-bearing stations will be set up. It'll be very easy to locate a place where you can get some water or some Gatorade, something to keep yourself going. Bring a chair, a blanket, some sort of sit-in spot, right? Figure out where you're going to be, and when you know that, bring something to sit down on while you're there. It's no fun to go field side and just be standing there all day long in a corner because you didn't bring a camp chair or whatever. And don't worry about it being period or not period. This is your first event. No one cares. Bring, your regular camp chair or a plastic stool. Bring a blanket and some pillows to sit on. There are many, many different options here, but it's nice to just have a place for you. Bring whatever gear is related to your activity. So whether it's fighting gear or crafting supplies and projects, if you know that you're going to be doing something specific at that event, make sure that you pack all of the things you need for it. If you're packing your rapier gear, you probably need your sword. But if you're a dude, you also need your cup, and you don't want to go through your gear at the event site and be like, oh no, I forgot it. Next up, any medications. If you've got meds you need to take during the day, make sure they're in your bag. That is not something you want to get there and forget. Feast gear. So you're staying for feast, whether it's a luncheon or a dinner, you might need feast gear. So having a bowl or plate, some wooden or metal utensils, a fork, spoon, knife, right? That can allow you to eat dinner with everybody else. And it can be a pain. Sometimes groups don't have paper plates or loaner feast gear. So having your own little set is pretty easy to do, and they're not hard to find. You can hit your local Goodwill and for a few bucks get everything you need. Next up is tents and camping supplies. So say this is a weekend event. We're not just going up for a day trip or something a few hours away. So you're going to want bedding, maybe a light, some pillows, your tent, everything you need to do that camping experience. If you're not camping it, make sure you have an Airbnb or a hotel selected before the event. So that way when you get there, you have a place to sleep. Nothing is worse than arriving at the event site, no plan of where you're going to sleep, and figuring it out from there. Bring sun protection. Sunscreen is very important. Our events are very hot and sunny. No one wants to get sunburned. And Nadia added her own note here of always bring a hat. She is a big proponent of hats, and especially if you're going to be helping at the event with something like water bearing or list heralding, it's very important that you have some sort of sun coverage on you, and a hat is a great way to do that. Finally, bug spray. A lot of people don't like getting bitten up by bugs, especially when we're into summer events and spring events. Mosquitoes can be everywhere. Having some bug spray on you can be a great boon and make your day a little bit less miserable. What do I do? So when we get to an event, the first thing we're going to do is gate in. Gate is just going to be the place where when we arrive at the event, everyone's going to check in. If you haven't paid yet, you'll pay for your site registration and fee. You'll make sure that you sign off on any waivers you need to sign off on, and then you're ready to go into the event itself. They'll usually give you a little token, and that token just says, yes, you paid your gate, or yes, you paid your feast fee, and you're good to go. Once you've gated in, make sure to ask someone at gate, where are the different activities? If you're not sure where you're going and you want to find the list field, make sure you just ask someone at gate, hey, where's the list field? How do I get there? Right? Find your campsite. So if you're camping, it is kind of awful to arrive at an event and you get there a little bit late and you've gated in, and then all of a sudden the things have started, and then you sprint over to go get to do all of the things, and by the time you've gotten done with everything, it's 8 o'clock at night, it's dark, and you haven't set up your campsite, and all of your gear is still in your car. I would know nothing about this. So instead, do it early. Get in a little bit early. Once you've gated in, go find a spot to camp, and at bare minimum, just get your stuff out and staged and ready. If you can, get your tent up then. That way you're not trying to do that in the dark. Find your people. So we talked about having that group of people you're going with. Make sure to locate them once you're on site. Figure out where their pavilion's going to be or where they're hanging out. Maybe they're under someone's shade structure. If it's Bryn Gwlad, we might have the Bryn Gwlad pavilion there, which is pretty easy to find with its big black and white. Find your activities. Maybe you're doing archery. Make sure you know where the range is. If you're doing fighting, the list, equestrian, make sure you know where equestrian activities are. Just scope things out in advance. It doesn't hurt to ask people, and as we already said, when you get to gate, they should be able to tell you where everything is.
I want to throw in a special plug that when you get to site, you should also ask when inspections are. If you're doing rapier, cut and thrust, shiv, archery, or thrown weapons. A lot of people wait till the competition is starting to do inspections for archery and thrown weapons. So find out where they are and go there early.
Yeah, that's very important for combat activities. Set up a spot for yourself. So whatever shade structure you're under, wherever you're hanging out, get your stuff. If you've got a basket of things you might want during the day, your chair, or your blanket, your whatever, set up your little spot so that you have a place to return home to. Because I see so many newcomers at events and they're looking lost and they're kind of standing around in a corner and they don't know what to do. But if you set that spot up for yourself in advance and it's around all of those people that you already know you're hanging out with, you've already got a home base to go to. Finally, have fun. Watch the fighting. Watch all the activities. Do something you haven't tried before. There's a lot to do at our events, and it's really fun as a newcomer to see everything that's going on and take it all in.
I would also add, even if you're not doing any of the competitions, ask people about the things that they are competing in.
Nadia said to ask people about the things they compete in, which is a good piece of advice. So what are some activities to do? Because there's a lot going on in the SCA, so I tried to give you just a short list here of like, these are some things that I like to send newcomers to do. So heralding. You'll see list heralds out when we have competitions, and their whole job is just to say, this person's name and this person's name, come to the list, you're fighting this person's name and this person's name, you're on deck to fight next, right? And it's super fun and easy. It's a great activity for a newcomer. Other forms of heralding can be walking around the site and saying, oye, oye, feast was at 5 o'clock, but it's running late and now it's at 6 o'clock. Or court has been moved, or whatever else information may need to be spread around. It's pretty easy to find who's in charge of heralding at an event, and you can always ask someone who's handling that. And once you know that you can start to get involved in it. And it's, again, it takes no real knowledge or skill set. All you have to do is show up and want to talk loud at people. Water bearing. Fighters need water, let's be honest. And most of us who are fighters forget to drink it. Water bearers are critical. Someone to walk around and go up to a fighter and say, hey, have you had water yet? Or have you had any electrolytes? You look like you need a pickle or an orange, right? To refill the big water jugs and make sure they're stationed all around the event site so people stay hydrated. Water bearing is another good activity for getting to know people, especially other fighters, talking to them and getting involved. Helping out with the kitchen. Maybe you can come in and chop some vegetables or serve at feast. Help with feast cleanup. I know dishes always need to be washed after feast is done at an event, and nobody ever wants to do it. So if you're looking for an activity to like get to know people and hang out, get to know the feast staff. Come into the kitchen with them, work with them. You'll probably get some free food out of it, honestly, and it'll be a good time. Entourage. We always need more entourage, whether we're talking our royals or we're talking our landed nobles. Entourage is always in short supply. Entourage is the group of people that walks around with royals or landed nobles and helps them get around throughout the day, whether that's changing into and out of complicated or difficult clothes. Maybe it's taking care of a problem for them because they're in a meeting and they need someone to go and talk to someone else. It might just be holding their bag of stuff because they have 4 bags of stuff and they can't carry them all. You don't know. But it's incredibly important. And not only are you helping them out and getting a little FaceTime with the leadership in our organization, but it's a really, really good opportunity to get to be a part of the show, a part of the spectacle, right? It's how we thrive as a community in the SCA. It's part of that image. Our royals and our nobles need entourage pretty much at all times at these events because that's how we keep up that look for other newcomers like yourselves to live their dream. And so going out and helping them, even if it's just holding their water cup and going, hey, have you had water yet? Is a really important activity. Whatever your activity of interest is, whether it's fighting, arts and sciences, or combat, find where your things are going on and make sure to participate in them. Maybe you could help with setup or teardown. If you get there early or you don't really have a late leave time, maybe you could stay at the event a little bit and help them bring down some pavilions or get them set up. Scribal and heraldic consultation. Some events will have heralds that will set up consultation tables, and all they'll do all day is help you figure out how to get your name and device figured out and registered. Maybe they'll have a scribal table where you can go and practice illumination. Always a good thing to do as a newcomer. You could attend some arts and sciences classes. Usually events will have a list of classes going on, and it's a great way to learn new skills and activities. You can just talk to people. Sit in the shade of the baronial pavilion. Get to know the people in your barony, the people fighting in the events or competing in the arts and sciences competitions. Ask them about what they're doing. Maybe you'll find something new you like. And watch the fun. There is nothing wrong with sitting on the sidelines in a chair in the shade, keeping cool, fanning yourself with a fan, and watching what's going on the field and being like, that looks neat over there. All the time.
Yeah, I do good. I love it.
So, closing out your first event. Eating feast. Feast in the evenings is great. They'll set up different styles of feasts. Some might be buffets. Some might be served to the table, family style. Others might be served to your plate. Depends on the feast and the feast steward. But show up, and if you've paid for feast, go and eat feast. Enjoy anything from a intensively researched period meal to just some home-cooked barbecue. You could go to court. Going to court is great, and it's how you learn about the awards and the structure of Ansteorra. It's where all of our pageantry really exists. Going to court is one of the most fun things you can do to cheer on your friends, cheer on your barony members, and say, hey, great job on getting your whatever the cookie is today. Hang out with people at night. There is no better way to get to know people in the SCA than after court is done and everybody is kind of milling about and the drinking starts and maybe there's some partying going on or you're at War of Ages and they're hanging out under the pavilion talking with the people around you. You will hear incredible stories, you'll have a great time, and it is a great way to get to know the SCA and its people and make friends that are going to last you a lifetime. If you're camping, make sure you're ready at this point. It's nighttime. Do you know where your tent is and can you get there in the dark? Have you set it up yet? Is all of your stuff in it? Collect all of your things, get them to your campsite, make sure you're ready to get up in the morning. Packing up. It's the morning, you've camped out, you're ready to go, or it's been a long day and you've been fighting and it's time to load the car and you have a 3-hour drive ahead of you. Don't forget your stuff. No one wants to be the person that sees their mug on Facebook sitting there at an event site with the event steward saying, whose is this? And then you have to go, oh, that's mine. Can you send it by SCA mail, right? We don't want to do that. So make sure you find all of your stuff, you get it all located and gathered up. That way packing is easy and breezy. Maybe you're going out to eat after the event, especially with a lot of our day trips. A lot of groups like to go out to eat. If you're ever there and I'm at the event, you are always welcome to come out to eat with me wherever I am going. I know a lot of other people are the same way because that's how we get to know each other. It's how we build our community. And so No need to feel like, oh, well, I don't know any of these people. I'll just sit over here quietly. Find us, hang out with the Barony. Someone is going to invite you to come out to dinner, and feel free to come along. And then finally, heading home. You might have a long drive ahead of you. Maybe it's a short drive and you camped and you're just kind of waking up in the morning and rolling out of bed. Either way, at the end of every event, we have to head home. And I'll tell you the biggest bit of advice I can give anyone about right after they've headed home, they get home and they get all their stuff unpacked, and then the next day happens and there is the infamous post-event depression. Because you've burned all this energy and you've done all of these things, and then Sunday comes along and you crash because there's nothing to do, right? Keep yourself busy. It's fine. You don't have the flu. You're probably not sick. You're probably just tired because you were out in the sun all day and you were having a great time. Questions? We don't have that many people here, so.
Can somebody pull up the Facebook post or the Discord and see if anybody got questions? I will say, because I know you came from Kingdom, and I've never done any events out in the West, but I know there are a lot of other kingdoms that will have like cabins for camping, or do a lot of events indoors.
There are some events, but it's I'm from the Alicia,
Okay.
and that area, and there are events that have cabins, but most of the time, no.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you're used to that availability, that is not very common.
Nope, sleeping on the ground is just fun.
Yeah.
I would like him to have you add something, though.
Yeah.
Help people to bring things to clean their feast gear.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
Don't think it should be available.
Because
Yeah, the kitchen is not always available.
they need to sanitize as well.
So that's an important note. If you're bringing your own feast gear, it may behoove you to bring some method by which to clean your feast gear, because the kitchen is usually not available for people to clean their own personal feast gear because they are busily cleaning up all of the stuff from feast. So instead of trying to rely on the kitchen to have space for you to clean your feast gear, bring a little bit of soap or water in a little tiny travel bottle, maybe a rag or a sponge, just something that's easy to give it a quick rinse so you can clean it when you get home.
Or you could also have my feast gear goes in this thing to get it home,
Also works.
where I can have my entire kitchen to clean it in. So,
Just
because there's not always even a
Where
spot
everything
to
is-
clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or offer to wash the dishes in the kitchen, because honestly, if I'm running the feast and you're like, man, I really want to wash my feast gear, can I wash some dishes in return for getting to wash my own feast gear? I'll be like, absolutely. You wash 4 pots, wash all your feast gear. I don't care.
Yeah, I ran into an issue.
Other questions?
I'm trying to think of common things.
Yeah,
I tried to cover most of them.
yeah, that was good.
I'll check the Discord real
Questions and
quick.
things.
I'm trying to think of like an inside event thing.
Oh, glad you mentioned like post-event drop, but also drive home, you're carpooling people, best time to recommend your friends.
Award Rex.
Yeah.
That's when you do that.
Yeah. Also, just it's more of a comment, but speaking of the drive home, make sure you check, especially if you're driving alone, checking in with yourself to make sure that you are awake enough to be driving.
Yep. Check in frequently with your friends. Post on the Bronial page, hey, I'm leaving now. And the reason I'm not home yet is I stopped and took a nap at a Buc-ee's. Like, good to keep people aware and updated on what's going on.
Something else, I might have missed it if you said it, but one of the things in the West that we do is we have a rule to leave the site better than we came to it as.
It is a good rule. Leaving the site better than you came to it. Not always super relevant as like, it is me at my first event, because that will also sometimes come down to the site staff and making sure cleanup happens correctly, because that's a much larger job. But when you're packing your stuff up, make sure all of your trash is thrown out. Make sure you're not leaving your campsite messy, or you're not, you don't have this gigantic like hole that you dug and you didn't fill back in, whatever it is.
If I have a problem at the event, who do I go to?
So, if you have a problem at the event, the first person who should be able to answer almost any question is going to be the event steward. They're going to know everything that's going on at the event. They're going to have a staff prepared for it. If the problem is specific, say it's with fighting or the feast, talking to the feast steward specifically, or whoever's coordinating the list field is going to be the best first point of contact for that, as they will know more about their activity. But if it's a more global problem, start with the event steward. If the event steward can't solve your problem, they will probably end up directing you to their local seneschal or whoever's above them in the chain of command for that event, and then it will go from there. But start with either the leader of that particular activity or the event steward themselves.
If you don't know who that is,
ask Gate.
Yeah.
Someone at Gate can tell you who the event steward is, and likely they can send someone with you to the event steward, or they might have a little radio at Gate going, "Event steward, can you come to Gate? So-and-so needs help with a problem."
Did you talk at all about children's activities?
I did not talk much about children's activities. So yes, our events do have children's activities. And the Minister of Children, usually for that local group, will be the one running them, although they may outsource that to another individual. The key to note is that first, some sort of guardian must be around with the children. That's required. Or they have to have a signed waiver releasing to allow another individual other than that parent to be with the child. Next, and also important, is that for those children's activities, you cannot just get your child all day long with that Minister of Children and totally ignore them. You need to be checking in with them. You need to make sure that you pick them up from that Minister of Children, right? And it's probably best not to just let your child like vanish into the nothingness of the event, especially if they're a young one. Keep an eye on them. But not all events will have children's activities, but most of them will.
A good note with children's activities too is they are usually time boxed.
Yes.
And so you can sign your kid in to the children's activities or the youth activities, because there are also things for teenagers at some events, that sort of thing. But it is sign your child in, and then you sign your child out when that time is over, because the people that are running it cannot leave until you have picked up your child.
And remember to sign them out or someone will panic. Some Minister of Children will be very upset, and someone else will probably be grumpy at them. Any more questions? Going once. Going twice. 3 times. Sold. So, for more information, I'd recommend checking into the Kingdom FAQ on the Kingdom website. Here you'll see ansteorra.org/hospitaler/FAQs. And that is a good way to just go out, find whatever your question that you may have that's being answered as a newcomer is. And thank you for attending your first event.
Thank you.